What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. Also, 2018 Innovation Award winner by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communication. More, but I'm going to stop while we're ahead. We are blessed and highly favored to host another epic conversation on the Get Vocal platform, and I did want to check. This is actually my third broadcast on the Get Vocal platform, and I am very happy to start doing some more conversations. Been going through a lot of good things, a lot of challenging things over the last few weeks. Would anyone like to buy me a new car, by the way? I need a new car in a lot of ways. It's having some challenges, but I was sharing with this wonderful lady that is in the other square with me a little while back, and I said, she wants to get into the broadcasting world, etc., and I'm doing some things to help her out with that. And I said, why don't we try a video conversation? So she's here. So we have L.A. Wade here. We're both residing in the Greater Toronto area. So L.A., do share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I work at the University of Toronto. I am the registrar and for a wonderful program called the Transitional Year Program. They work with people who are looking to get second chance at post-secondary education, and they don't need to have a high school diploma to go to the University of Toronto once they do our program. We work specifically with Black and Indigenous youth, although all groups are open and welcome to come if they try to get into a university and they're not able to. It's been the most satisfying work that I've done over the past 10 years. I also get the opportunity to lecture from time to time. And I enjoy good conversation about community building. So this is a fantastic forum for that. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, so it's our conversation, not mine or yours. We met a number of years back, then we hadn't seen each other for a while, and now we are reacquainted again. Let me ask, how did you get involved working in the TYP program at the U of T?
The Transitional Year Program. So I actually came through the Transitional Year Program myself in 2004, 2005. I was 31 years old at the time. People need to be like doing the math. How old is she? So that's when I came through the program. And then I did the Transitional Year Program year. I did my undergrad in sociology and religious study. I then went on to do a master's in sociology and equity studies in education. And upon my graduation, I was hired by the Transitional Year Program to be their registrar. And like I said, it's been some of the most rewarding work that I've ever done, because I'm in a unique position to understand the student perspective, but also understand the administrative and institutional perspective. And so I'm bicultural in a sense. And I help bridge that gap for people.
I know we'll get to the main topic in a few moments. I've never had a chance to sit with you and chat about it. Why did you want to go to university at that stage of your journey?
That's a really good question. I had always wanted to pursue education, but I hadn't graduated from high school. And so I had been on my own since I was 16 years old. And because of that, I was working and I just didn't have time for school anymore. And eventually, I had done a lot of community work. I was doing a hip hop edutainment seminar called Blueprint for Life. I won plenty of awards for that. And the person who did a mini documentary on that work asked me one day when I had moved back from California, because I lived in California for a year, whether or not I was going to go to school. And it was about time that I did. And when I expressed that I hadn't graduated from high school, he told me about the Transitional Year Program. And I went down and applied, and 4.5 years later, I had a master's degree, and I was then working for the same program that helped to change my life.
Now, was that something working for the U of T? How did that come about? Was that proposed to you while you were going to U of T, or was that after?
Well, when I was when I went through the transitional year program and then began my undergrad, people were enamored, I would say, with my organizational skills and my academic prowess, where I just attack everything that I'm interested in doing. And I began to work with the general university population in accessibility services. So I started working with people on the autism spectrum, people with learning disabilities, people with physical disabilities, both undergraduate students and graduate students, teaching them techniques of things to help them feel more inclusive in the community, things that would help them organize their educational endeavors, brainstorm ideas for papers, things like that. And because of my time during my undergrad doing that work, I had many people on my side at the university already who had already seen my work ethic through going to school and then working as a work study student during that process. And that really, I think that really solidified that when they were looking for someone to fill that role, because the person who had been the registrar had been on sick leave off and on since my time in 2004, 2025. And so when she was getting worse and worse, they called me to come in and step in for her. And eventually she passed away. So that's how I became a permanent registrar. And a paper that I had written in school called Symbolic Proximity, Rihanna Face to Face, it got published actually in this book right here.
Nice,
it's
nice.
called Ruptures, Anti-Colonial and Anti-Racist Feminist Theorizing, and it's close by because I'm actually in the process of applying for my PhD right now. But so this was a wonderful endeavor that allowed me to get published while being a grad student. Here's my chapter right there.
Okay, you come equipped.
Right, I just happens to be at my foot because I've been working on my statement of intent for so long. And so yeah, it's right here for me. But being able to write this chapter and get it published allowed me to begin teaching the chapter in school. And then I also teach university studies, which is a class that helps people both balance their academic and personal life. It's kind of personal development focused and academically focused in terms of study skills, procrastination techniques. Well, not techniques to be procrastinator, but how to overcome. Because we have those techniques down.
Yes, we do. Yeah. We do. Before we go any further, just want to say we are live streaming on Get Vocal, live streaming on YouTube Live, and we're also live streaming on Periscope. I'm not sure about Facebook Live, but we're also audio live streaming on Mixler. So about 3 or 4 different platforms going on right now at the same time. Big shout out to a big time supporter, Claude Diamond. Hello, Mr. Diamond. Hope you are doing fine. He's following us on Periscope. And we got some people jumping on Periscope. So if I look at the look down once in a while, I'm just checking what's going on my tablet on Periscope. So there you go. I'm checking everybody out.
How is it out there? What's
Pardon me?
As?
What, on Periscope?
On YouTube or what any of it?
On YouTube, I can send the link out. It's the Dr. Vibe Show. They go to the Dr. Vibe Show site on YouTube, but I'm going to send the link to you through DUEM in just a moment.
Okay.
All right.
The people texting me, where can I hear this conversation live?
Okay, well, I said I can send the link to you again. The same link that I sent to you is the same link they can watch it on.
Okay.
If you want, I can send that to you also again.
I got it.
Got it. There you go.
Perfect.
They can, and also I can send them the YouTube. So I'll send you another link too. Yes, Claude, we are on multiple platforms at the same time. So I'm hosting, producing, and carrying the conversation as much as I possibly can. So LA, I'm going to also send you another video link that people can watch it on. I've just sent it to you via DM.
Sounds good.
All right, so it's done. So you're working me production-wise. So here we go. So we're working the production end. Enough about, I guess, your background. Mr. Cliff is
Hi,
here
Cliff, whoever you are.
on the Get Vocal platform. Got some other people jumping in too. Hey, Big Bad Brad 50. Let's get down to our main topic of conversation tonight.
Okay.
Would the Black Panther movement work today? And I'd like to know, why did you want to talk about this subject?
Me?
Yes.
Oh man. Why
you brought it up.
I not want to talk about this subject? I've been watching a lot of, I guess in doing my research for my PhD, I am trying to formulate a basis for everything that I'm thinking about. And on Netflix, trusty old Netflix, they have the Black Panther story. And I remember watching it, thinking, wow, this was really powerful, what they were doing. And of course, you know that. But there's something about the time now that people seem so lost, that I feel like, what would it take for somebody to rise up right now and become a leader, like a Malcolm X or a Martin Luther King or the Black Panther movement? And something's blocking that from happening. And I was interested in investigating some of the things that might be doing that. Now, we are in a stage where we see people being killed by the police right in front of our face. And we get people together to march and to protest, yet the critical mass isn't there. I think Black Lives Matter was really close to doing something like that, but clearly there was something flawed about that movement that didn't continue the momentum that had begun. And there's probably a string of reasons that we're going to get into today about why that didn't happen. But again, more recently, somebody sent me a video of A1 Beauty Supply Store. I don't know what city it was in, but the owner, an Asian owner, had said to a Black woman who was in there buying hair products, they called her a black bitch. And these people came in, Black people came into the store dressed in black and addressed the store owner and demanded justice and said that they were going to be patrolling outside of the store, letting people know what's going on. And they all raised their fists in the video saying no justice, no peace. And it gave me this nostalgia to the Netflix that I was watching about the Black Panther. And I'm like, would that work? Is this going to work today? If we're in such silos, right? So we're all spread out. And I was talking to a friend of mine and who brought up the idea of the propaganda around integration, diversity, and inclusion. So the reason why Black Lives Matter turns into All Lives Matter is because of this illusion of diversity and inclusion that we drink up like Kool-Aid, is not working, but we have bought in. So when we try to do something for the community, it needs to be couched in people of color, women of color. We need to include the Chinese, the Indian, and all of these people are important to fight for causes for their communities. But there is something about when we try to organize for ourselves that gets caught up in the rhetoric of us trying to be separate and we are being racist, reverse racism, and all of these different things. And I think that's one of the key battles against something like the Black Panther movement being able to be exercised right now.
Okay. I know you've done a little bit of research on the Black Panther movement. What made it successful in your opinion?
What made it successful is that they were there fighting for the people. They were there to create equality. They were there to give free education, for healthcare, the things that they did for the awareness around sickle cell. They had screened single-handedly 30,000 Black people when the government was not paying attention to those issues. So they were running food programs for people in the ghetto who could not afford to eat. These people were taking care of the people. It wasn't just about systemic. It was also very micro. It worked at every level. It was a micro thing like you to me, meso level within the family, and then a macro level where they were policing the police. They were speaking back to government. They knew their stuff. People must have been studying law, medicine, they had really powerful people dialed in to the concept of creating that equality. And there was a lot of people involved. It created quite the critical mass. And, you know, I look at Black Lives Matter and I think, what was wrong with it? Like, what happened? And I think it's a bit about that integration and the fact that when people want to talk about one cultural group or racial group, we all of a sudden have to talk about all of the different aspects of that racial group. So it became an LGBTQ thing. It became, you know, what about the women? What about the Asian people? What about all of the other people who have been oppressed? And so in that sense, it dilutes a little bit of the message, because the message for the Black Panthers was that Black people are in need of fairness. It rose at the time that voting became something that you could do. Martin Luther King was there, and then he died during their time. There were things that were really in your face around the oppression that was happening. And now it's much more, we've taken over where the oppressor has left off. And so now it's much more, we oppress ourselves in many ways. And so when somebody rises up to say, you know, I'm against that, we look at the people that are like us and say, you know, you're racist. You're staying away from what we're supposed to be on. You're trying to divide us. You're crazy. You don't know what like poor Dr. Umar Johnson. That man has so much information. He is so brilliant, but nobody's buying it. Well, not nobody, but a lot of people are not buying into the things that he's saying because it seems too radical. And radicalness for this type of movement is what's needed. It needs to be radical because there's nobody who is willing to fight. They're radical in the way that they attack us and meticulous. And we're too busy playing nice because we finally have it better than we had it. But that's not enough. We need more than, we need fairness. We need equality and equity. And I don't think that's what's going on.
Okay. Number of different areas that we hope you to comment on during this conversation. In the first place, in regards to integration, because the Black Panther movement in its heyday, did they want integration or did they want separate but equal?
They wanted equality. I'm not going to sit here and speak for the Black Panther movement.
No, I know that. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like what it is that they were doing was on a manifest level, they were looking for equality. On a latent level, they were creating self-empowerment. They were creating love of self. The afros, the way that we presented ourselves, there was a certain gift that they were giving back to the community that went beyond the actual things that they were fighting for, things that we don't really understand how pervasive it is. But here I am in 2018, looking back thinking, wow, that was really, really powerful. And some of the similar things that, you know, derail movements happened then as well. Like, you know, pinning people against one another, the womanization of men and women. That will be another conversation about polygamy versus monogamy. That's a big deal in our community. but it has been known, like, you know, when people try to talk about Martin Luther King or any of our other Black leaders, and they like to bring up this fact of, you know, they were having affairs and all of these different things. These are divisive tactics that are employed to derail the momentum of a movement.
Would you agree in their time, the Black Panther movement, they had a target? They were fighting against something.
Yeah, they were fighting against oppression.
Understood. Now, so I agreement on that.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is one of the things he says about the Black movements of today is, what are they fighting for? Because back in the 60s, in the Blacks were fighting for civil rights. and he wonders, he tells me, what are Blacks fighting for today? And that there's
economic equality. We are fighting for the end of police brutality. We are fighting for the end of being secondary citizens. We're fighting for the end of voter suppression. We're still fighting for the same things as we were before. It's just we are involved in our own oppression in ways that we don't even see, which is why we would think that things are better now. This illusion of inclusion is quite pervasive. And I worry about it. My thesis that I'm trying to develop in school is called symbolic proximity. And it's the idea that we have created an ideal of the perfect way to be. And we all have different versions of what that thing is. But there are symbolic markers that we move towards, and we judge ourselves based on how close or far we are from that image. So in a crazy sense, there's people that want to look like cats or Barbie dolls, and they do all of this reconstructive surgery to get closer to looking like that thing. So that's their symbolic proximity. But for Black people, our symbolic proximity might look like an Oprah or the Obamas. You know, these are people that were like, oh yeah, they made it. But it's an illusion, because if you look at the way that Obama and Michelle were handled during the race, the presidential race, you can see that there is not fairness there, even at his status. When Oprah talks about beef and cows on her show, they come for her. They are so quick to show you who they really think you are, that doesn't exist. The archetypes that we are looking up to are facades. They're not real, because they can reduce you based on your color like that. And so that's why it's an illusion.
I want to actually also say, what are your thoughts of what's happening within the Black community? Because again, it seems that back in the heyday of the Black Panther movement, there was more unity within the Black environment. I don't like using the Black community. I don't like that term. It's a very catchphrase for me. I like to say Black environment. Would you say that there was more unity in the Black Panthers' time compared than there is today?
Yeah.
And if you do agree on that, why is there less unity 2018 Black environment compared to 1960s Black environment?
I think it has something to do with this, the idea of freedom. I think it's linked to the idea of freedom and liberation. So people are free to be who they want to be who they are. It's the promotion of individualism, and capitalism has further divided our unity. So that when a Black man or woman starts to make money, they probably are not thinking about how to invest this into their community. They see it as they've adopted certain values and they have made it, and nobody helped them get there except for themselves. So they're less likely to see it as a community initiative. Those of us that do see it as a community initiative, if I make a certain amount of money and I'm busy giving back to those that are coming up behind me, then I could be left with nothing. And then it's kind of like the idea of, if I'm drowning and you come out to save me, we're both going to die. So, you know, there's a lot, and people are afraid of that because it took them so long to get to where they were going. There's also the idea that, as we know, Black is a social construct that was created. And so when you think of Black, the color, incorporating all the diversity amongst the people that represent that color, that is another hindrance that social media and boundaries, as they become easier to transgress, become more and more prevalent in terms of us not being able to be the same kind of homogenous group that we once may have seemed like. The other thing is the civil rights movement that we get to take in is very much isolated to the United States of America, which, you know, Black people in the United States of America, it is kind of like a homogenous group because they went through the same struggles. They are fighting for the same things. Whereas when you think of Black of the diaspora, Caribbean blacks are not experiencing the same type of oppression as American blacks. Canadian blacks are not experiencing the same as the UK, and vice versa. And then there's our brothers and sisters on the continent that are having their own struggles. And it's not the ideal that we may have been taken away from back 400 years ago. Colonization is quite pervasive in Africa, and the mentality of the people there are quite different than when we were first taken. So there's many, many different things that are impacting our ability to come around the same concept and fight for the same things. My friend Fax always tells me that the economic push is what we need to do, but we're blocked in those areas too. I was reading an article the other day about how difficult it is for Black entrepreneurs to gain venture capital money, to get loans from banks. These are things that are stumbling blocks to our community. So in light of all of these things, I continuously ask myself, do we need a Black Panther movement now? I think we do. Is it the Black Lives Matter? It could have been. What happened?
Okay, so let's just ask, but are Blacks ready for that movement? Before it's
I'm ready. Are you ready?
A number of Blacks are, but the thing is, I think a number of Blacks have checked out.
Yeah, because of that idea of individualism. I mean, you know, if you're living in a nice home and you got your family going on, you don't need to worry about Susie J down the street or Tanika over there, or your stuff is good. Your family is good. You're not thinking about the family down the street, the Browns next door. You're thinking about you, and you're thinking about who you can reach and touch. You're not thinking about the other people. And that's a construct that I would like to get involved in a conversation where we start to strategize around that. How do we make that happen? Without making it feel like other groups are not important, because they are. The things that they've done to Indigenous people in North America, it disgusts me. And they have a fight on their hands, but they have a truth and reconciliation that we still can't get as Black people. So I don't know. I don't like to put one oppression over the other to say, oh, but we're worse off because of this. And then they'll chime in and say, but we're so bad because of this. At the end of the day, the system of oppression and the colonial project has destroyed families and cultural similarities so devastatingly that we need a plan. We need a movement. Maybe all groups need a movement. We need to rise up and fight oppression. And each group maybe needs to fight that oppression within their group. And we need to talk to each other to find out how they're doing it, to see if there's tactics that we can all utilize.
Excellent. Well, as we go on in the conversation here, there's viewers on Periscope, viewers on YouTube, viewers on Get Vocal. And I have been able to check Facebook Live right now. That's probably out of my reach. I would like to also thank the two, Cliff and Ken, who are watching on Get Vocal. And either one of you, if you want to jump into the conversation, just send me a message on the side and I'll unlock the room and you can certainly join in.
Oh, they come in.
Well, all they have to do is give a message. That's it.
All the answers.
Huh?
You have plenty of questions, but I don't have all the answers.
No, we're just having a conversation. No conversation. How many conversations do you have where all the answers are given? Not all the time.
No.
No, it's very rare, because the more you know, the more you need to know.
True.
But okay, Ken, thank you so much. You're saying, I'm not sure I have anything to add, but I am learning.
Oh.
Hey, love that.
I love it, because I'm an educator, so that makes me very excited. Even though I'm not completely clear on what I'm saying. I just know what I feel.
But Ken, if you have any questions, we'd love to have you come in the room. If you want to just come in and share, just ask from perspective of from what LA is sharing. We are based here in Canada. Would love to get a U.S. perspective, whether you're a person of color or a non-color, as one of my regulars say, a non-melanated person. We love to, because I like to have epic conversations. It's the home of epic conversations here. LA, do you feel because you deal with a wide range of demographic, especially in the Black environment,
Yeah.
do you hear more passion about this subject from younger or older?
You know, the younger people have watched enough Disney television that they believe that they're all the same. And that,
Wow.
yeah, they know that they're, I mean, that's just my casual observation. I have a 17-year-old. He, you know, he's completely removed. He's like, he knows about these things because I'm his mother and I bring it to his attention. But he doesn't really have a context about it in his current times. They're not talking about it. The You know, I grew up at the time of hip hop just like bursting onto the scene where it kept it alive in my consciousness. The music that they're listening to now, not so much.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt you. Got a comment here from Periscope. Okay, let me. He's you foresight saying older people carry it and it will always be fresh in your mind. Younger people don't have the legacy.
They don't have the legacy. The younger people.
Yeah.
100%. They don't have the legacy, and you know whose fault that is? Well, not fault. Let me just retract that. Let's just say that I myself finding it extremely challenging to create an imperative within my son because it doesn't exist within his social grouping. They're online looking at girls degrade themselves. This is what's capturing their attention. Videos of people swarming and beating one another.
Like at the concert the other night in Toronto.
Yeah, they're focusing on the distractions, which, you know, This Is America, that song, the video anyway. To me, that was about the distractions. That's how I read that video. That video shows that, you know, we're there all dancing and can do all of the moves, but really what it is distracting us. And while we're dancing, people are dying. People can't eat. People can't go to school. People are losing their rights to vote. There are things that are happening. Look at their president. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
What's going on over there?
So here's some more comments from you foresight saying, think about this. Think about us as kids coming home to watch something. Your son only has to turn on his phone. He also turns on the world when he does that.
He does turn on the world, and what is the world echoing back to him? It's not echoing back, let's come together and fight oppression. That's definitely not the message that he's turned on to. So it's you know, in part it's up to us to find out what they're interested in, but also, you know, try to guide them in the direction. So what I do personally is I watch a lot of these videos. Like, you know, you can do whatever you like to do on your phone, and you know, I can't stop you. You're 17, but once a week, let's watch something that I think is important for you to know.
Here's another comment from you foresight. You say, and it is sad to say, but if you look in the Black community, you will not find Black attitudes, and you will not find issues that concern the Black community. We feel in order to be successful, we have too many. He says we have too many white people.
Yeah.
That look Black.
Too many white people that look Black. Yeah, I just.
Oh, I think. Oh, he's saying we have too many white people. Well, I think he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you foresight, saying we have too many people who look Black but are not Black.
Oh, it's the you're my skin but not my kin conversation. I feel that. There's definitely that. But you know what we need to do to be careful of in regards to the skin is not my kin is because I work in a professional managerial position at you know, it's an Ivy League institution. It's a predominantly white, historically white institution. There are many things that I have to negotiate and navigate to sustain my position. So not that I sell out, because I'm luckily I work in a program where my demographic requires that I don't sell out actually. But I find that there are things that silence me in social settings that, you know, people, when the whole thing with Bill Cosby came out, you know, that wasn't a conversation that I was going to be having with my white colleagues around the water cooler. You know, they could say whatever they want, but I was less likely to be able to participate in those conversations because my occupation of those spaces is determined on how much I am willing to create and upkeep that illusion that I can fit in versus belong.
Okay, so you foresight continues saying, I think we have to build a new legacy. I knew Black one, we are stuck. He's saying we are stuck between the past and the present. Wouldn't no future with no future to look forward to.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Dr. Vibe?
I think it was a conversation piece I was going to bring up to you. I feel that what needs to happen is for this type of movement, I think any type of movement from any culture these days, you need to have the evaluated experience of the elders and the energy of the younger people. Because there's a severe disconnect in the Black community between generations.
Yeah. How do we bridge that gap? Because you know what we do as adults is we begin to police where the school system and our and our law enforcement systems leave off. We are overly critical of our children because of our fears about, if you don't get it together, kid, you're not going to make it. And while that is valid as a concern, it's also very alienating in our relationships with our children, and we're pushing them away.
I think another area that has to be looked at and changed as much as possible is the education system. Sorry to say, but
1,000%. Let's start with that curriculum.
Yeah, the education system has to be changed. I was reading a story today. Let me just see if I can pull it up. Talking about how teachers can have impact to the pathway to college for young Black students. And okay, so there's a question here. So you for sight is on fire on Periscope here. So, but imagine me telling, okay, hold on. He wants to know, what does Black mean to you personally?
Black is what they tell me that I am. Black is what I identify with, because if I don't buy into the construct that has been set up for me, then I will further alienate and isolate myself from society. Like Mandela, the freedom is in my mind. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And so for me, while I live my physical experience as a Black woman and walk through those oppressions and fight it, because if I'm silent, completely silent, then I don't think that I am embracing my human experience. But it's for my spirit to rise up and have my actions have my physical body match my spiritual presence, and create a critical mass in that respect, where I raise up who I am spiritually, so that when I impress impress upon people who I am, they also are hopefully able to see who they can be, and I pray that spreads. And it's a challenge sometimes, but the idea of Blackness for me it is a social construct, but it's one that's a reality, and I embrace it. I embrace my Blackness. I love my Black people. We have a lot of diversity within our community, and my spirit man allows me to accept those differences amongst my group, my kin. And so, yeah, I try to embrace all of the diversity within my Black people.
Well, we have to thank you for sight. He's like driving the conversation here on Periscope. He invited his 142 followers to watch on Periscope.
Fantastic.
He's saying here, exactly, remember the words, I'm Black and I'm proud. Imagine how that made you feel when you heard it.
Yeah.
And he said, our kids simply don't have that nowadays. So anybody's definition of who they are becomes who they are as well.
Absolutely. Oh, who's this person? Are they looking for a wife? What's going on? No, but that's a really important point. I hardly see my son's eyes. He's constantly, Dr. Vibe. Don't.
Oh my gosh! You know what? Keep on going. I have to do something here.
So
I have to go on. Keep on going. I was gonna drop a mic after that moment, but I gotta bring out for my future conversations a mic. So when I hear comments like what you just did, I just dropped the mic physically.
You're so funny. But you know, when he talks, or whoever that is that's on Periscope, when they talk about, you know, when you hear "I'm Black and I'm proud" and what that makes you feel, I had that sensation when I watched that A1 Beauty protest with the people of the community walking in saying, "You will not disrespect our women," and they raised their fists and they said, "No justice, no peace," about, you know, 3 to 5 times. And here I am in my house watching it on my iPhone with my fist raised, yelling it with them, because the video inspired me to say, yes, this is what we need. And so while I haven't seen my son's eyes in months, because it's constantly on his in his phone, every now and then I'll slide him a direct message of a video like that, of some clip where there are people in this world that are aware that things need to be, so that at least I inject it somewhere without being overly policing of my child. You know, I have to accept that this is where he is, but I also own the responsibility that I also have to give him other things to think about. Because if I don't, and other men and women that interact with him do not take that imperative, we are doomed. My friend believes that we could be extinct. They practically wiped out the Native American population in the U.S. What makes us think that we are not next in line?
Well, and hold on that thought for just a moment, because I'm just going to do some catching up here, because a number of people have either shared this out or favored this. Serena Wills, otherwise known as Divine Right, she hearted this on her Twitter timeline. Also, there's a young lady that you named named Dawn Ellen Morris. Oh. She retweeted this a few minutes ago.
Donnie.
Yeah, Dawn Ellen Morris.
We have work to do, Dawn. We have work to do.
Oh yes.
We are saving Black women's hair in hot yoga all around the world.
That's another conversation altogether. We're not going to get to that. That's a whole other conversation piece that we're not going to expose that here. No. But I'm just going to catch up, because I know U4Sight is on fire. So he's going here. Let me just catch up. Okay. Okay. And to that point, think about me trying to tell Black people we have to come together as a collective, and then no one hearing you. Then Black Panther comes out, and all of a sudden we have this Black pride, artificially given to us by the very people who are artificially given to us by the very people who put out negative propaganda. I tell you something that will blow your mind, but I have to know if you can handle it. If something is very simple, but we have not done yet. Well, if you want to share it, this is a place to do it. It's a home of epic conversations. Oh, some other people jumped on. Hello, Gabe. Hello, the Hello Room on Get Vocal. Thanks for stopping by. We're just having what we call another epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show, the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. Third conversation on Get Vocal, and more to come. Got a bunch coming on. Hey, Gabe, what is up? Thanks for dropping in. If you want to come on into the conversation, please, if you just tell me if you want to jump in. And Cliff and Ken are still staying on, so thank you so much for staying with us. No problem. And LA is doing the nice commentary thing, so she's like being an associate producer. I love it.
I can't help it. I'm a multitasker.
Well, I don't call it multitasking. I call it multi-purposing. I don't like the term multitask.
You see, you're really good with that asset conversation, right? I'm a deficit kind of conversation if I'm not paying attention. So Thank you. Thank you. I'm learning.
And Ken, well, thank you. Ken saying thank you to her doing a great job. Ken, much thanks. So I'm going to actually type that in.
Me too. That's awesome.
Oh, wonderful. I want to get back to the whole education piece because you are an educator.
Allegedly.
And allegedly. Okay. That a word allegedly, I use that more than I don't like using the word assumption.
Well, let me tell you, President Trump really operates in that world.
Well, I believe that all the individuals that are watching this right now, whether on Periscope or on Get Vocal or on YouTube, are all living in the US, believe it or not. So
well, teach me. I want to know.
But let's get back to the education system. Obviously, you're involved at the university level, but I think not only this has to be done, or repurposing or rethinking of the whole education system, not only has to be done at the top, but more importantly at the elementary school level, starting there.
Yes, of course. And it needs to be the correct history. I mean, the way that they tell stories about the Native Canadians, the indigenous people of this land, in elementary school is so archaic that how are these people? These people are frozen in time, as if they don't develop and grow within themselves. It's disgusting. And so when my son comes home and he, you know, the poor thing is just reiterating the rhetoric that he gets in school, I take the time to say, this is this thing called Google and YouTube, and it has a lot of information, but you have to ask the right questions. So until you get to that place, you know, you can ask mommy what you want to know, and we can go looking for the right information. I look for the black books. They're not teaching my son about Matthew DaCosta, one of the free black people that were here speaking Mi'kmaq and French to the settlers that were coming to this country. They're not teaching him about that. They're not teaching him about black mythology from the Caribbean. We went to the Royal Ontario Museum and we took time to study the Anansi spider because that's important for my son to know. And nobody else is going to teach him if I'm not teaching him. So his experience has to be experienced through the parents as well. The mother, if it's just the mother, the father, if it's just the father. And please, women out there, I could get into a lot of trouble for saying this. No matter what that man has done to you, do not stop your children from seeing their fathers. No matter what he's done. It's just wrong. Let them decide. Let them see what's what. But these are the things.
That's a whole other conversation. You're just giving me another conversation topic to put out here on Get Vocal. Before we go any further, I just saw someone jump on Periscope. I am Dave Rankin, great programmer on the TCN network out of Brampton, Ontario. Him and his lovely better half, Simone Jennifer Smith. They do a great platform called Here to Help You.
Nice.
So so glad to have them on Periscope. Education.
He said online there.
Yeah, I saw that. Anthony, do you want to come on? If you want to come on, I can open up the room. If you want to jump on, just message me and I will open up. I'd love to get. And people say, well, this is a little bit off of what you're chatting about the Black Panther movement working today, but it's not.
It's not, because this is the new Black Panther movement today. What we're doing right now is an aspect of it. And I just want to bring back up what Anthony has said here in the comments about the education system is not teaching critical thinking. They're taught to, drink in information. We've gone back to tabula rasa, where you think that we're blank slates that we just write information on and we just take it in.
Actually, you'd love to come in? Okay, Tony, I'm opening up the room. But actually, before I open it up the room, LA, I'm going to have you on a conversation about probably 3 Wednesdays from now. We're going to talk about diversity in education.
I love it. I'm all about it.
So I am opening up the room. Tony, come on in.
Welcome.
And
let's see if Tony. Good stuff.
Hey, Dr. And at LA,
how you doing?
How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing
fantastic.
good. Is that what I should call you? L.A.?
LA stands for Lori.
Lori Ann. Okay.
Lori Ann. Yeah.
No, I just come on and I heard the topic about education, and when I used to be on Blab, I did a blab about this topic about critical thinking, and it is something that I still am very avid about, mainly because people just don't know how to think for themselves anymore. And as much as the internet is a great tool, like Lori said, the internet's a wonderful tool. People just don't know how to use it correctly.
Right.
As a tool to actually learn and meet new people all over the world. So what I mean about critical thinking, I would put up a web page, but I'd have to go and look for it. But pretty much what I mean by critical thinking is no one knows how to question. No one knows how to ask the question why, what for, how come. They're not encouraged to debate anymore. Matter of fact, I don't even think debate is even offered in school anymore. I don't think so. It might be in college, but I don't think it's in the elementary school or high school anymore. Pretty much it's just here's the books, you learn this, and if you have any questions, tough luck.
Yeah, don't even ask.
Don't ask.
Well, it's interesting you're saying about this, Tony, because, and I know you're just talking about just general issues, especially in the education system, critical thinking's not allowed. That we're not even getting or scratching the surface when it comes to critical thinking and race in the education system.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole. So the stuff you are mentioning, that's one mountain. The whole area of critical thinking and race, that's a Mount Everest.
Well, it falls into play because we're all on one planet. We're all technically one race, even though we have different creeds, nationalities, colors. We're all people. And no one is literally taught how one nationality interacts with another nationality anymore. It's all one-sided, and if it's presented in another way, it's more biased towards that one nationality than the other nationality. Even in history class, you're just supposed to understand the facts and the figures and the dates and the people, and you're not supposed to really question, well, why wasn't something done? What was done here? Why wasn't this taken into account? And so yeah, even nationality, races just doesn't fall into play.
Well,
good stuff.
But race always comes into play when
it should
are a so-called minority.
It should, and it definitely is encouraged nowadays.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just kind of.
As Tony, I think what you're saying, I'll take from LA. It's an elephant room conversation that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
That's true. That's true.
I just want to shout out a number of people joining on Periscope. JNF Enterprises, getting some heart love on Periscope. Thank you very much. This has been great. Like I'm enjoying this. Again, if anyone else on the Get Vocal side wants to jump in, like Tony has, there is one more seat open right now. Just message me, and we can certainly make it happen. I'm going to give you an interesting question, Tony.
Okay.
When you hear about the Black Panther movement, what is your reaction?
Well, I don't know too much about it other than the fact that I do know the Black Panther, the movie, the Marvel, the Marvel franchise made by the great the great late Stan Lee.
Yes.
And I do know about that. I really wasn't too big of a fan of the comic book series at all. I was more of the Avengers, Fantastic Four, kind of guy. But I believe it has, in retrospect, what's going on in the world today, doesn't it have a lot to do with the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement a little bit, as far as the storyline goes? What?
Well, hey, thanks for being transparent. No, I'll let LA.
Of course you would, because you just like to puppeteer everything.
No, people aren't here to hear me. They're here to each other. I'm just steering the ship. People.
The reason I say that is because the little I do understand about that franchise is it does talk about the African heritage of the African nations, and it does talk about the kings and queens of Africa, and that kind of things, and it talks a lot about its place in the world as far as a political movement and the characters of that movement, and it does kind of correlate with what's going on in 2018.
So Tony,
Tony, you know what? Tony, you done really good.
You're not completely wrong. And the Black Panther franchise out of Marvel was slightly before the Black Panther movement. Political movement. I don't know if you're familiar with the Watts riots, or around the time frame that Black people were able to vote in the 1960s, mid to late 1960s, the time of the King.
Well, I do a little bit. I grew up in the Archtown, North Carolina area, which is really close to Greensboro, North Carolina, where the first sit-in was.
Right.
Also little far south, about 3 states down, Rosa Parks did her sitting on the bus and all that,
right?
All that stuff. So I do, I am familiar with all that stuff.
Have you ever seen the movie Selma, the Selma March?
I've heard of that movie, not seen it.
Right. But. So around the mid 60s to the end of the 60s, there was a movement, and they called that movement the Black Panther movement. And it was just a bunch of Black people that wanted to fight to have equality and to fight oppression. They did things like they did free healthcare programs, free education programs. They had meals for people who were impoverished. They would have a place where they can come and eat. And the movement kind of spread, where people were just coming out of the woodworks trying to become a part of what their contribution to help their community could be. And because of that, it spread pervasively, where almost everybody and anybody who believed in the movement would be calling themselves a Black Panther. And there was an executive group of that. Are you? If you want, you can.
I believe that was referenced a little bit in the movie Forrest Gump, wasn't it? Just a little bit, little tiny bit.
Well, the movie, the movie is at least the one in 2018 is an important movie.
Yeah.
I can talk about the commercialization of the Black movement and go through a whole thing there. Yeah. But that will definitely be a different show. Write that one down too.
Yeah.
Well, which one? Of the Black movement. But there's Tony, when we get
on. I can say that I am a little more familiar with it than most people, mainly because I am from the Triad area, North Carolina, near Greensboro, and that was put into our education system.
Well, that's great that it was, because it's left from many others.
But as far as the name, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I've forgotten all about that. It was called the Black Panther movement. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. I do remember hearing a lot about the Black movement of the 60s and the 70s. My family would talk about it too. Talk about the African Americans having their own bathrooms.
That's encouraging that your family would talk about it. So basically, Newton and a bunch of other people wanted to transform their society and fight for justice. That's what they were fighting for. And they did it through various means that served their community. And it was a powerful movement that the FBI were completely threatened by. And they began their colonial project to, divide and conquer. And eventually it imploded upon itself. And so now...
Well, this is kind of an opening question for both of you. Doesn't it kind of parallel just all other groups, meaning the handicaps? They go through their own Black Panther movement of getting proper ramps for the wheelchairs, getting enough space, all that stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna just interrupt you there. Two things I'm gonna interrupt you on. First of all, just want to catch up because there's comments flying like crazy here. And the majority of them are on Periscope. But first things first, Ken Dixon saying, "I'm a white Canadian living in Mexico. You two seem well educated, and I'm learning a lot. Just curious what equity and equality looks like for you in today's world." LA, get ready for that answer. And then on U4's site, people having the wrong idea. If the Black Panthers were here now, they'd be walking around the street, Woodlawn books in their hands, and legally carrying weapons and overseeing whenever someone gets arrested. To make
that point is really important. The right to bear arms is such a key factor in the Black Panther movement, because the Americans are allowed to bear arms. And so, maybe they can't walk around with it, all out in the open like that anymore. But I think at the time they could. And so they were policing the police. They knew the law. They knew their constitutional rights. And so that empowered and enabled them to be able to fight against the injustices in the ways that they were able to do so. I don't know if you want to finish what you were saying.
I just want to continue on with his comments to make sure, instance like someone getting accidentally shot didn't happen. The same mentality does not exist now, existed then. I am Dave Rankin. First of all, thank you. He shared it to all his Twitter followers, or Periscope followers, saying the Black Panther comic book was in the summer, but the political party was established in October of the same year.
That's right.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There you go. The U4 site is saying Black Panther Party stepped up to help the Black community in troubled times, such as the ones we are in right now. And those times police were overstepping their bounds. And as a result, Black people getting shot and killed, the Black Panthers became a buffer.
Yeah. And
what I was trying to...
much like every other movement.
Yeah, what I was trying to get to is, every nationality or creed or color, every kind of person has their own movement. The disabled people, they have their own movement. The LGBTQ community, they have their own movements. The Black people, they have their own movements. The even Christians, they have their own movements. So pretty much, I'm not downplaying the Black Panther movement at all. I'm just saying, doesn't it parallel a lot of the other movements and kind of coincide with everything that's going on?
Let me say this. I think that it depends on the fight, right? So what are the other people fighting for? Is it justice? And are they disenfranchised? At the time of the Black Panther movement, were they treated as different citizens, or were they? And also, just to preface the intersectionality, that Black people can be both, like have LGBTQ, be LGBTQ, can be disabled, can be a whole bunch of the things that you listed, as well as being Black, which just further complicates their experience in this world.
Yeah.
So while those things are definitely important, what Black people are fighting for is the right to be seen as equal and to have fairness that equity brings in.
And I agree with that 100%, and I'm 100% that. I'm just saying that a lot of other people do that also as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm coming from.
I'm going to just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to. No, I just want to play. I think the caveat you've got to put in there, though, Anthony, is look where the starting point is for these groups.
Okay.
So let's put it now. I'll just put an interesting parallel here. A person who is white and disabled in America, for many years, people who were white and disabled had the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas African Americans basically got the right to vote in the 1960s. So yes, there are some similarities, but there are some severe differences.
Okay, I could agree with that.
Do
you follow? Go ahead, Ellen.
It's a positionality thing in your approach to understanding the gravity of things, and you definitely are not trying to discredit anything. I can hear you.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to parallel.
Man.
No, yeah. Anthony, I think you are doing. I love how you come on, because believe it, probably a lot of people wouldn't even want to come onto this conversation.
So, I mean, that's really great.
So, like, I big up for you. I'm just going to get back to some more comments here.
Somebody was asking about the difference between, not the difference, but my understanding of equality.
Thoughts on equality. Yes,
so,
go ahead.
Equality is, an example of equality is when women want to be paid the same amount for the same job, right? That's equality. Yeah. For the same rights and respects that any other person would get. The equity piece comes in. I like to use this example because I work in education and I work in access and equity in education. So if I have a ramp that allows a wheelchair to go up the ramp to get into the school, I am providing access for that person on the ramp. If I do not measure the door to make sure that that chair can fit into the institution, then I am not creating equity for that person. I am not making it fair. I'm saying, here, come on in. But then I am not considering what it's going to take for them to fit through the door. So equity for Black people would look like reparations. It would look like, I guess it looked like 40 acres and a mule back then, but not the mule part, I guess. But yeah, so it looks like fairness. It looks like I need to be equal. I need to be considered equal. But because some of us had a head start and other of us are starting behind, you need to help bridge that gap to even out the race so that we can keep going together from the same place. And I think that's a fear that, people up that are invested in the colonial project know that if the other people rise up, that they're afraid that it's going to turn around and happen to them, what they did to others. That's the golden rule. You want to others, right? But I don't know if that's what would happen. We can explore that with a bunch of other people online on another day. But that's my idea of equality and equity.
Okay, I just want to catch up again with some comments here. IR Dave Rankin. We can't forget how the Black Panther Party inspired other movements like the American Indian movement as well. He said, and now you Forsyth saying those times were very hectic and chaotic. That's why the Black Panther Party was formed, to protect the Black community from wrongs that were being committed on Black people.
The FBI was definitely afraid of the Black Panther Party aligning with white working poor individuals. They didn't like that, but white working poor people were a part of jumping in at near the end of that movement, because it was fighting against oppression. And white people can be oppressed too, but that's not what this conversation is about.
Yeah. Let me just continue on. I'll just give you one more second, Anthony. Sorry. You Forsyth saying equality of it is the way you say someone who cuts the grass, I'll pay you $7 an hour. But if you say that anyone touches that lawnmower and begins to cut more grass, he has to be paid the same as anybody else, then that is equal justice for all, that is equality. So I guess what he's saying is equal justice for all is equality. And also want to have welcome Lokesh for jumping in on the Get Vocal side. Thanks for taking some time out of your positive, productive schedule. Anthony, you have the floor again. I'm sorry if I interrupt you. I had to catch up.
It would be an
hour till I get everyone back.
I pretty much just said what I was going to say. And I mean, I understand. And, you know, I never did understand that I understood. Let me repeat that again. I never did understand that I understood so fully the way that I did, because I'm just kind of like, I have sometimes I don't even bother listening to news. I listen to it a little bit, and most of it is kind of like, okay, yeah, just that's negativity. Turn that off. But I do listen to it enough to realize that there's a lot of problems, a lot of things are messed up, and most of the problems are from small-mindedness, and most of the problems are from stubbornness, and that it's not just one thing or the other. It's a lot of little things put together to make one big issue, and most people just aren't paying attention to the fact that we're not talking to each other. We're not trying to sympathize. We're not trying to be sympathetic. We're not trying to be helpful. We're being very domineering and demeaning and degrading and belittling.
Yeah.
And it just in general.
Yeah, Tony, I completely agree. We're not acting like our spirit selves. Because in our spirit selves, we are one man. And
that's true.
Feminists out there, one woman, one human. That's what we are spiritually. We're spirit beings.
No problem. So I'm going to start winding down the conversation. LA, and I think we need to do a part 2 of this, because we just scratched the surface on this one. So LA, in just finalizing, winding down here, the question, would the Black Panther movement work today? Do you think it would work today?
I think that the Black Panther movement is working today already. I think that platforms like this, there are pockets of people throughout the diaspora that are doing Black Panther type work. What we need to do for it to have that critical mass is to do more networking, to link some of the things that people are doing in different parts of the country and different parts of the diaspora, and start, doing more homogenous work in terms of reaching a broader group of people with these groups in mind. So there are people that are feeding the poor. There are people that are working in education, like myself, that are doing that kind of work. There are parenting groups like Ujima House. There are people doing the work. We need to work together more for it to have the impact that the Black Panther movement had in one section of the country.
So, and are you saying that it is working, but it needs to work better, fuller, and higher?
Yeah, we definitely need higher levels of integration. We need the lawyers, we need the doctors, we need the people who understand constitutional law the way that the Black Panthers did, so that we can invoke change. And I would say, like, the election is proof that that kind of movement, the election in the US, is proof that there's something happening there. There was a lot of people, but then again, we also see the voter suppression conversation. So they are afraid, they meaning the people that invested in the colonial project, are afraid of the rise of that movement, of something like a Black Panther movement. And everything is done to dumb it down, to diminish the accomplishments of what Black people are doing to help their community. And so we may not be able to see all of the work that's being done because they're happening in silos.
Here's another conversation piece for you. would, for the Black Panther movement to work today, does it solely have to be done? The work has to be done by Blacks. Should they deny?
I wouldn't say so.
Is that for Tony? Because I would say that there's no way that.
No,
I'm putting out there.
If anything, I mean, the Blacks already out there, Black Panther movement, and they should keep it and keep moving on with it. But who said that on Periscope about the Black Panther movement moved on to the Indian, the Native American Indian?
Yeah, that was IR Dave Rankin.
Dave Rankin.
Another
you know, that helped that helped the Native American race and other races like I'm talking about. The disabled people, they should have their own Black moments, and the LGBTQ whatever, if they want to have their own little Black Panther movement, go ahead. And then once all these little groups start having their little movements, people might start saying, hey, let's talk to each other. Let's see what we have in common, not have in common. Let's see what we're trying to do. It might bring up a lot of discussion and betterment towards, okay, let's stop the oppression, let's stop the depression, suppression, and get on with life and make life better for all races, all people.
That's great. And I just want to also say that, there's been no movement that has been run by just one singular race. We have to have allies. That's a very important concept to the success of the movement. So it's not to say that there were not white people involved, but I don't want white people having to think about, what do Black people need? Because nobody knows what Black people need better than Black people. Where you can be an ally to a Black movement is what I'm interested in. And where I can be an ally to that white person, I'm interested in that also. But, I'm looking for equality. I'm looking for reparation. I'm looking for reconciliation. I'm looking for peace. And that's what drives me more than anything around the idea of a new Black Panther movement.
Okay, so I've got some final thoughts here from you, Forsyth. Since this is the night before Black Friday, he's encouraging Blacks to stay home on Black Friday if you really want to celebrate the lives we lost at the hands of the police. Blacks should spend no money on Black Friday and change the narrative, and watch how not spending Black dollars gets huge attention. Black people have to be seen doing the work so that Black people can gain strength by it.
Yes.
He's saying, last word here, I would say Black people have to get together and work on themselves first before anyone else joins. He's talking Black people have to make Black great again first.
Yep. I like the idea of boycotting on Black Friday. Let's do a whiteout.
Nobody needs to be up at 4 in the morning to buy electronics.
Whiteout.
Well, I got all the electronics I need, except I need one new computer. Anything else I got, I'm good for.
You need a new car.
But
I do want to kind of add a little bit of information here, just to kind of just put this out here. I'm big into country music, bluegrass country music, this kind of stuff. And a lot of people do not know this. Country music would not be country music what it is today if it was not for the African American people.
That's right.
If it was not for the African American people, because they brought,
Tony.
They brought the banjo into to America.
Right.
So, so anybody who says, who's the best banjo player in the world, I'm like, well, the African Americans were.
Well, what's actually interesting, and I'll close out on this, that I was reading and I don't read a lot of media, but apparently the top selling singles right now on the country music charts in the US are Black men who are at the top right now. So just I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Oh, and IR Dave Rankin brings up Charlie Pride.
Yeah,
so
Charlie Pride too.
Dave, you remember Charlie Pride? Yeah, okay. So like to say thank you, a whole pile of people. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Cliff. Both Ken and Cliff.
The mayor's here.
Yeah, we've been on. Yeah, he's been on for a long while. Much support on the Periscope side. IR Dave Rankin, of course, you Foresight. You've said that you've been on Periscope for a few years and no one has been listening to you. Well, you have no excuses anymore, because when we go on Get Vocal, oh, Cliff, love discussion. Why didn't you join us, Cliff? Come on, you should have came in. I invited you to come in.
I love Cliff.
No problem. But no, what I just appreciate when people take time out of their positive, productive schedule to just whether listen, add to the conversation. It's just been a really great time. This is LA's first time on the platform. If you know, I hope I can keep her as a co-host, but I know she's gonna get so big. She's gonna, as we say from my country, she's gonna dash me.
Never.
So that's all right.
Never that.
Oh, Cliff can pop in for a sec. Okay, Cliff, open it up. Let me just unlock the room
Next
here.
time, can we have drinks?
It's up to you.
To invite you to
okay, Cliff is going to jump in, and I am. Hello, Cliff. How are you?
I'm doing great tonight on Thanksgiving for us here in the U.S. and whoever else is loving it out there. L.A., beautiful to see you here on with Dr. Vibe. It doesn't get much better than hanging out with him. Yeah. And Tony, of course. It's just, like our old blab days. But yeah, I think I've been listening on and off. I've been doing other things, family things going on too. But I really wanted to just pop in and say, great to listen to the dialogue. And I think certainly Black people have to stand up, take their position, and save their lives. At the hands of whomever is going after the police or whatever. And the Black Panther movement was pretty rough back then. I was around for it. It was a rough time for everybody in this country and across the world, and I think it'd be tough to revive it in that form. But today, I think what Tony was striking on here with the platforms like Get Vocal and Facebook and others that are doing live video and conversational video, which is my whole bag. That's where it belongs. That's where all the dialogue is going to happen. It's not going to happen at right now at government level. They're just not going to solve this. They're going to keep arming, put more and more armory out on the streets and try to keep people fighting with each other. And we really need a separate kind of existence, if you will, both for Black, white, colors across the whole board. And it really comes down to respect for each other as humans, as Tony was trying to say earlier, I think, and that we are all the same. Yes, we've got color issues, we've got color blindness, we've got all of that stuff we've been dealing with for forever. And, personally, it never affected me that way. I've watched it and I've been disgusted by what's happened, and we could talk for more and more hours about this, of course, here. But I think what I've been experiencing the last few years, especially, is with, technology is either going to kill us or it's going to save us. And the integration of humans and the humanistic approach to our future is the answer. And that means we are all the same. We're all on the same rock for now anyway. It means we need to get together and love one another, use the old cliche, right? But that's what it comes down to is all of these things that are being driven, especially in this day and age, the last couple of years, to divide us on every issue, color, race, creed, where you come from, walls, all of this crap needs to dissolve. And again, we can't rely on the tyranny-based folks and the powers that be. They want to hold on to control over us, and how they do that is keep us separated, keep us fighting, no matter what it is, color, whatever. Yeah. So that's it. We really need to find the common ground, move past the rhetoric. The noise is coming in from, I want to call it above, the government and other factions that want us to keep buying stuff on Friday, whether you're Black or white. They want us to keep doing things the way that we've been doing them so they can keep their money and keep their power. And this really gets to the heart of, talk about LA. You're talking about, all the R words, reconciliation and reconstruction. And I think about regeneration of what it means to be here together as humanity. And I bless you guys for being here on Thanksgiving. Thank you, Dr. Vibe in LA and Tony and the rest of you guys on Periscope. If you guys can hear me, we welcome you to have conversation. And this is a great day for conversation, right? At the dinner table.
Absolutely.
But here with us and at Get Vocal and other platforms as they come and go, and just open up the dialogue, open your hearts. That is the key. It's not your mind. It's not what the past has done and how it feels. And yes, we have wounds. We all have wounds. We have black wounds, white wounds, generational wounds, all kinds of things. Individually, as individuals, we have these things that push us and pull us and keep us kind of struggling. And if we were able to come together and find that connection, that heart connection, there's so much we can do and so much we have to do. This planet's burning up. Whether you're black, white, green, blue, it doesn't matter. It's burning up. And we need to come together and find that alternate path of togetherness and actually getting stuff done. So it's about connecting hearts, minds, and hands. And with that thought, I'll leave you guys and bless you all for the rest of today and tomorrow. Thank you again, guys. I'm going to pop out. I'll just sit here for a few minutes and let you guys wrap up.
No problem. I don't know.
Sorry, I just want to say that that Cliff is right. But what needs to happen before that can happen is, when you're arguing with a significant other or a good friend, you want to hear that the person understands what you're saying. And when there's no acknowledgement from the other side, it's very difficult to quote unquote move on, get over it. I need to know that somebody understands what's happening, and I need them to right the wrongs. And I think from a place of healing that, yes, I can work together. But as of right now, it hasn't stopped. And the brutality continues. The murdering of people are continuing. And so it's very difficult to continue to move on when that is what's happening still. Let's stop doing those things so that we can then heal and move on. It has to stop. And I don't know, these forums are the way that we're going to have to start, bringing ourselves together. I don't think we have an option, but the ultimate goal is definitely, and I will echo what Cliff is saying, we have to get to our human selves and point that humanness towards our spirit selves, because that's how we're going to be able to love one another.
Well, I will just add in, LA, there is a choice. You can do nothing or do something. And especially these days, power these days, really and truly, the good power comes from the bottom up, not the top down. There's a certain president who has a lot. He has his, what do they call it? They call his group the people. But when you have your tribe, or when you have your base, when you have your base and they're strong and they're tight, they can move mountains or make things happen that you don't think can happen. So especially in these days of stuff, man, people coming on. We can stay on for long because I see more people are coming on here. So this is good stuff. I didn't expect this to last so long, but it is lasting a while. People want to share. People want to share. There are people want to share.
I want to jump back, Dr. Vibe, to LA's point, and absolutely right. It needs to stop. And the question is how to get it to stop. Is it going to stop by having more violence in the street, more bloodshed, more innocent? No, it's not going to. People, they're just not coming around. And it really needs to come back to that level where people understand. And look, I don't have the silver bullet here. I wish I did. I wish I'd look. If everybody just said these 5 words 5 times a day, of all nations, of all colors, of all background, that everything would be better. Now there is something to that. Okay, positive energy, positive vibrations. With Dr. Vibe here, but there's something to that whole energy thing. And if you look at Otto Scharmer and some of the work that Gene Houston's done for the last 60 years, and spiritual and psycho connectivity and all of this stuff, some amazing stuff happens when you get people together. Whether it's 10 people, 5 people, and because of the technology here, and Tony has seen this, we've saved lives on a platform similar to this over the last 4 years.
Yeah, the people involved
just
are like
coming together, right? And just having that connectivity of people. What's that, Tony?
I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you.
That's okay. So just the idea of people coming together and finding the common points of each other across the world is something that just it shakes people awake to say we aren't that different. And we saw Van Jones, doing it in the time last couple of years, going out into Trump country and sitting down with those folks at the table in the middle of the country, and finding that. Yeah. They turn around and go, we don't. I thought I wouldn't even understand what you're saying. Being black, like you would talk a different language almost. And so those kinds of things are really telltale that ignorance and arrogance and all that stuff has no place in our future. If we're going to get together, we're going to survive, and we're going to get away from this violence directed at blacks and others. And Tony's talking about all kinds of suppression across the world. And it really comes down to people understanding and somehow getting past the rhetoric and I'll say it this way, bullshit that comes out of people, in power positions today, especially, to do what I said before, keep everybody at each other's throats, or, to accentuate our differences. Those people are coming to do this. They're invaders. They're bad. If they're black and they're on the streets, they should be pulled over, or shot at, or all this bullshit that goes through in this constant negativity and to keep people divided. And that's where their power lies, is in keeping us in that mode. So
another one that got added into it, and I go back to this book, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. The guy who wrote that book, he talked a lot about how to communicate and talk and speak, and he goes into that too. So
it's about connection.
Okay, well, on that, yes, absolutely. Conversation leads to conversion. Mm-hmm. So you have to have the conversations. They have to continue, and they have to go on forward. On that note, I'm going to close it out, folks. I think I've said bye to everybody, because this is part 1, and I have a feeling that the next few Thursday nights are going to be quite enriched and fun. LA, any last words you'd like to share, and where can people touch base with you?
Last words, just lead with your heart. Have a spiritual existence in your human body, and which is what we are doing, but more so pointed towards that spiritual side. I'm just new on all of this social media stuff, so you can help build my my following. I think my Twitter is at LAWade6. I'm on Instagram with the Elephant Room TV, which is a podcast that Dr. Vibe is producing for me. They're taped right now, but we'll release them in the new year. And that's the Elephant Room TV. And then on Instagram personally, this is LA Wade. All of my websites and stuff are just being constructed. But it's been a nice warm welcome into the online community. I'm finally, I feel like I'm joining the world again, and it's nice. It's nice.
Well, you jumped in on you jumped in on a good place. For myself, I could give you all the different platforms that I'm on, but I like to keep it simple these days. If you want to find out more about me, go to the website, the drvibeshow.com. You'll get all the audio platforms you can hear me on. You'll get all the video platforms like this one now and YouTube and all that stuff. Just keeping it simple these days. I'd like to thank everyone who stepped in during the conversation. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that the people at Get Vocal are finally happy that I'm coming back on a regular basis, because they're sending me emails saying, "What's happening, Dr. Vibe? We're counting on you." So I like to say thanks to Tony, thanks to Cliff for jumping in. As I said, not everyone wants to jump into these kind of conversations. So I appreciate people who jump into these conversations. We will chat with you soon. If you look at my schedule, there's a few more conversations coming up over the next few weeks. I haven't put it on, but coming up this Monday, we're going to start at once a month on Mondays. We're going to have a talk about sex. And I have a sex coach coming on once a month talking about intimacy and sex. They wanted to come on. What a bad play on words. And so just follow me on Get Vocal and on Twitter at drvibeshow.com. As I like to say when I close out, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. And then finally, block assumptions. Like to say good night, everybody. We'll catch you soon. And have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans around the world. God bless.
Uh,
I'm trying to stop the recording here. All right, so I haven't stopped the recording, but I guess I have to stop broadcast. Well, if you get kicked out, it's my fault.
No worries. You can always call me later, right now, whenever.
Nope.
Pardon me? You can always call me back, or
yeah, I will call you. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and for some reason, I guess to stop everything.
Your Monday show, is that an ongoing show about sex and intimacy?
That's going to be happening once a month. So at the last Monday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern
I have
time.
a section that I would like to do in that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to kick you off. I will call you back.